Questions for Coach Johnson?
As obviously since the LSU game, pass defense has been not as productive, I guess, or efficient, or whatever the word is. As you look at it, what do you say is causing it?
Biggest thing this game were some busted assignments on explosive plays. And, we just got to get some communication cleaned up back there. And Whiteside, been out of the lineup. That was the most age and experience. And some of the younger guys are going to have to get more consistent. One positive thing, I thought we got a lot more pass pressure. That improved this week. And hopefully that's a good thing to build on going forward. Because I would say up until that time, that was our biggest issue, getting the ball out on time. But that wasn't as big of a problem this time. We had some breakdowns back there. We got to get them straight.
What do you think the reason for the better pass rush was last night compared to the last few weeks?
We've worked some guys in. We've tried to get the best ones with the skill sets and the speed, to get it done. At times it was hard to sub because of their pace, but when we were able to get them in the game, it certainly helped.
You mentioned Whitehead. Is there any chance that he plays any defense?
Not at this time.
What have you seen? You moved some guys around, like you said. Brandon King, he got a little bit in there, a lot of the unique packages and stuff like that. What have you been able to see from him and some of those other guys you counted on?
Yeah, Brandon has as much first step ability and the speed off the edge. Anybody on the football team. There were a couple of times he busted a twist, and when that happens, you have to get him off, get it cleaned up, and so forth. So he's got to bring that physical skill set. He's also got to be consistent on his assignments because it's a risk when you put him out there if he makes a mistake. But he was one of them, and of course Pee Wee Lambert has done a good job. Moved Elijah inside, and got Pee Wee outside. I thought that Gabe got better. We rotated him in a little bit, and I thought he was more productive. And also Blackson and Montravius. So in some ways it was just individuals stepping up the game a little bit, and other things it was working some personnel in there and trying to get the right combination of guys that get that speed for the pass rush situation.
Ellis, was any of that possibly have to do with Tunzel not playing? I mean, he's our best offensive lineman and missed the entire game.
Could have. We noticed he got hurt. I couldn't remember exactly when he got hurt, but I thought our pressure was pretty good from the beginning, on through. Even when we didn't sack him, we moved him out of the pocket a lot and got a lot of hits on him. So there's no question it was the best game we'd had in that area.
You've had a lot of close calls, close wins, close losses over your career. Can you remember one? Did last night feel like one from your past where you literally came down to probably within a foot?
I was at Alabama the year we beat LSU. A kid named Marvin Constant made a big stop on the goal line and tore his knee up. And it was almost exactly the same, different type play. It was a goal line play from short yardage. But it was very similar, only our player got hurt. And it did, it won the game. That's one that comes to mind. But I've been involved in a lot of, it's hard to remember some of them, but that was, unbelievable ending. Just things that were happening, and the unfortunate injury just sickens you. But the ball to come out the way it did, the kid's leg was literally across the line, but the ball was not. The thing that was very unusual, we had a monitor in the press box that we could see real clearly, and they had unbelievable angles on the play. They had one from the front, one from the side, that you could tell that he was not across the goal line when the ball came out. And then you could also tell that he wasn't down when the ball came out. And then you could also tell clearly who recovered the ball, because from what we were getting feedback from down the bottom, they were wrong on all of it. They thought he crossed the goal line, they thought he was down before it came out, and they thought they got the ball. And all three of them were wrong.
When you're in zero, when you're in zero in that spot and you see the play unfolding at the beginning of it, how quickly are you realizing that this is probably not going to go your way?
It wasn't a great call to be in, because the last time we played a little more cautious and they threw the ball over Mincy's head, got a holding call. And then we got down on that big third down, and my decision was to bring pressure. So we under zero blitz, and they throw in the quick screen. And anybody will tell you, what do you not want to be in if you know they're going to throw a zero blitz. So you put a lot of pressure on those man cover guys. We had great effort from inside out from the box. After they blitzed, they turned and ran. Had a couple of near misses, but we didn't force it real well, but it was a tough assignment for those DBs to be in. And, it's one, you have to make that call and hope, you got the right thing on. But, we had not, they got the ball out vertically the play before, the last third down before. So that's why we wanted to bring pressure right there.
Ellis, was Moncrief's start more of a function of him outplaying Halsey last week in practice, or did he just fit the defensive game plan better?
Chiefs want to give some rotation. Josh didn't play well South Carolina game, and he rotated Rudy over and put Moncrief in. And, they all had some mistakes. The very first touchdown was Moncrief. When they threw the little scramble route over there in the flat on the late throw. And then, later on, we got one to the tight end up the seam, and that was Halsey again. And then we had another one the very first play of the second half. The safeties busted the pickup on the reverse. They should have been there on the reverse. So it was just a mixture of things. And, this communication's got to improve. It's things we've practiced, and the players have got to function.
So you're saying Moncrief's first start was a kind of an uneven maybe performance?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's what happened. I don't think that's what bothered him. But, there's too much inconsistency right now.
With Texas A&M coming up, they've got another new quarterback there. He only played this one game. I'm not sure you've been able to watch any of them, but make it more difficult to prepare for. What are you expecting out of them with them struggling the way they have them?
It'll sort of be a guessing game. I don't know whether they'll try to be cautious or not. It's certainly not in their philosophy to do that. We're going to prepare for the regular Texas A&M to come in here throwing it around. They've got a very good offensive line. The receivers may be the most talented. They're young. They're not as old and as experienced as that crowd last year. But, I know the young man's got great talent and can throw the ball anywhere on the field. It's just a matter of them protecting him and him reading the coverages and those things. The last ball game, they played a lot of heavy sets, 2 tight ends and things of that nature. But the team they were playing was a big blitz team. A lot of zero blitzes and fire zones and stuff. And it could have been they wanted to just clean it up for him. A lot of max protection, 2-man routes. Very different. So we're going to have to split some time on it. We're going to spend time on both, make sure we're prepared for both.
Talk about Chris Ross, the play he made there at the end to pull him back from when he was about to cross the goal line, and just how he's progressed overall.
Just a great effort play. We fortunate to even get to him, from where he was one of the guys blitzing in the A-gaps, right up over the center, and turned and chased, and because somebody got him to cut back a little bit, he was able to catch him. Stripping the ball was just, unbelievable on top of that. Grabbed his arm and got it to come out. I'm not sure that the injury didn't cause him to let go of that ball. I don't know. It was just also happened so quickly right there. And, Casanova getting to the ball and good effort to get to the ball so somebody could get on it. But Chris has had some really good games. Coach gave him a little helmet sticker out of the South Carolina game. He's been a lot more consistent because he's always been a playmaker, but his statistics and his production wasn't good because of his inconsistency. In the last couple of weeks, he's been really good, a lot better in that area. Casanova's been a little better too, and his production's picked up. It's mainly because they're not making as many mistakes as they were, and they're getting around the football better.
Do you foresee, not necessarily comparison's sake, but you started Moncrief over Halsey, but maybe making other switches and switching things up this week based off the performance against Ole Miss?
We're right now, we've got who we got. And, the fourth guy is right now Stephen Roberts, true freshman. And he's making progress. And we had to put him in a game we're not afraid to. But frankly, right now, it's kind of a 3-way rotation. And all those guys have played better at times and played more consistent. They just got to follow through. They had a great week of practice last week. But you got to do it on the stage, when you get out there, you got to do it on stage.
I guess I was speaking more specifically, just the entire defense in the positions.
Oh,
that you
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not really. Like that mixture of pass rush guys we got going on, you're seeing some new faces in there, maybe some different alignments where one was outside and now he's inside and that type of thing. I need to rotate linebackers a little bit more. Just get into the second rotation, and I think it helps those other 2 play better down through the stretch. What happened though, I was rotating the first half, and the second half our offense had great drives. So there was no fatigue issue. And so I just kind of hung with the starters. But that's, nothing really on the horizon as far as any major personnel shifts.
Looking at the film, what do you see as far as, just from the press box, looked like there was a lot of tackling issues, non-tackles, kind of just not characteristic of what they've been doing the first few weeks.
You have to say some of it's Ole Miss, before before you go too far, because they got some really talented guys that make you miss. But all of our accountabilities, there's 4 major areas: penalties, missed assignments, missed tackles, and the last one, of course, is finishing plays. All the accountabilities went down this week. They were better. But boy, when we missed a tackle, it would be a glaring missed tackle. You know, the one that comes to mind was we shanked the punt to get the ball on the 50-yard line. We're in a little fire zone. They throw the ball to a guy right between 2 players, and both of them just whiffed. And the guys that made a lot of tackles, and Casanova was the second leading tackler in the game, he whiffs. And Jonathan Ford was the leading tackler in the game, and he whiffs. And then Jonathan had another missed tackle on the sweep where he had him head up there. So he had 2 really ugly looking ones, but then he was the leading tackler on the field. So we had only 11 missed tackles now. 11 missed tackles in that game, but all of them seemed to be real glaring and costly. Sometimes that's the case when you're playing against good athletes, because when you miss them, they turn it into something better than the average guy. So, you know, it was improvement, believe it or not, but then it's not good enough when you play against a team the level of Ole Miss.
Ellis, when you have, with finishing plays being one of the accountabilities in particular, when you have a couple of late hit penalties among them, obviously you want to play with an edge, you want to finish a play, but those are those penalties you look back and say there's no excuse really. So how do you tell guys to walk that fine line?
They gotta have judgment. You know, if they'd gone over and, you know, cheap shot at a guy, that's discipline. Both of them, they barely touched the guy, but the guy was clearly on the white. You know, they just gotta see that, and they gotta have better judgment. But nobody knocked anybody over in the bench, nobody cut anybody on the sideline, nobody went to the head. They just shoved him with their hands, almost in a chase position. And when a kid's running that fast, I mean, that's enough that, you know, he ends up over in the bench. It's dangerous. And that's why, of course, the penalty's there. They're calling it more strict than they did 20 years ago because, I mean, you got a risk of injury there. But both of them, they got to pull up. And I mean, they're literally a step over across the sideline. They got to pull up. You know, that's the only thing you can do. But we had, you know, had one play that was about a 20-yarder, and we get a face mask on the end of that, so that's a 35-yard play. Had a scramble route that they hit. You know, we got good pass rush, we got good coverage. He starts running around, hits a guy downfield about 18 yards, get another penalty on the end of that one. So that's your about a 30-yard play, you know. And then getting gashes in 4 plays ended with either a face mask or a late hit or some kind of holding penalty, which tacks on that hidden yardage that really turns it back into a situation of field position.
Ellis, is it too simple to say that the biggest difference between this year's offense and, you know, last year's offense with Texas A&M is the fact they don't have Manziel and Evans anymore? I mean, do they seem like they've tweaked some things without them, or are they basically the same offense that you saw last year?
The route packages look the same. You know, after looking at about 5 films, same routes, really good receivers, talented receivers, but not as old. I don't see as much of the zone read with the quarterback pulling it, being a part of the run, kind of like our offense. And then when he would pull it, he'd have the option to throw outside. We were dealing with all that last year. And they weren't running Hill that way that much. He could, but they didn't run him that way that much. And they have not used this player that way in that first game. Now, will we see it? Maybe we will. You know, I think people are going to look and see what you've had problems with. They think they can hurt us with it. They would. I just believe they'll bring the Texas A&M offensive playbook in here and try to help the young man operate it. And they've got the good enough players around him with the offensive line and the skill guys. You know, he's certainly capable of moving football.
When you're preparing for a true freshman who just made his first career start, do you ever go back and look at his high school film just to get more looks at him? Or
no, you know, and he has, I think, played in a few late plays. But what we do is we'll create a complete tape on just him. What plays did he really do well? What routes did he throw well? What coverages did he hurt? You know, did pressure bother him? What bothers him? You know, fire zones or man pressure. We'll try to get some kind of feel for it. But we've really got last week to go on for the most part, and they were uncharacteristic of what I've seen in Texas A&M, and so I don't expect that to be what they run.
All right. Thank you, Joe.